joyful hello to all of you. My name is Minnku Buttar, founder of the Circle of Joy that brings you self-mastery programs and retreats. It gives me great joy to bring to you this season's talk show, a series of interviews on choosing joy, secrets, and stories from all over the world. It is my diligent attempt to show you that joy is not a hockey-pocky, frivolous concept, but a discipline, a way of life much needed. If you want to be resilient, radiant, and unstoppable like a runaway train. So subscribe to my channel so that you can tap into the wisdom of people from all over the world. I will see you there.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the 28th episode of this talk show, Choosing Joy, Secrets and Stories from Around the World. My name is Minnku Buttar. Namaste from India, and I'm so thankful to each one of you who keep coming back to hear these episodes, to listen, to grow, to heal from the wisdom of my guest speakers on the 1st and 15th of each month. So I'm very elated to have today's joyful, funny, light, quirky, if you call it, uplifting conversation as it reflects my joyful state as I celebrate my first successful TEDx talk this month. So get ready as together with my joy kindler guest speaker today, we smash some myths about joy today. Now, interestingly, my guest speaker actually calls herself a joy kindler and is forever sparking joy in the many roles she plays as a chief joy officer, a passionate strategic syndicated study sales leader, a pharmaceutical field trainer, a specialty hospital pharmaceutical representative, and a licensed cytogeneticist. She is a gratitude ambassador, a huge role to play in today's world, a keynote speaker for living jagged. And you know, I'll need that corrected later. Jagged, the full form being joy, abundance, grace, and gratitude every day, for which I'm so thankful that she brings it to the world. She's hosts 12 days in joy programs and truly believes that her strengths are servant leader orientation, collaborative team player, enthusiasm, and an innate passion for selling. Ladies and gentlemen, to tap into the wild tunes of adventure that will soar your spirits and lovingly nudge joy in your direction, all the way from New York City, join me to welcome my joy kindler, Vicki. Oh, Granny Longo. Did I call that out right?
Yes, hello. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Minnku, for having me.
You're so welcome. So welcome, dear Vicki. We had this wonderful chat a month ago, almost, right? And we connected on many fronts. And it's such a coincidence that, you know, we're all about, both of us are about Shakti, the female divine energy. And you have that beautiful, you know, Saraswati.
Bring her in to say hello.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Yes, namaste to her. And she's the absolute, and today, for all our listeners, just as an information, today starts the first day of the 9-day of serious, heightened, divine female energy. We call it the Navratri. And it's a coincidence that, you know, the Shakti is in play today in today's episode. So, Vicki, you're a joy kindler. I'm a joy queen. We are two dopamine junkies as well.
Yes, I at least try to be.
Yes,
I mean,
yes. And
you know,
yeah, that's good. Yeah. So welcome. And
thank you.
yeah, and I know that there's one other similarity. We both believe that the ha-ha can sometimes lead to the aha moments.
Yes.
So tell
Absolutely.
me, Vicki, you know, joy kindler, chief joy officer. So what does joy even mean to you personally? I'm just curious.
So, hello, and thank you so much for asking such a deep question. Happy Monday It's a clean slate. It's a new week. It's an opportunity to embrace joy. Joy for me started out when I was a very little girl. And I was always noticing other people around me that seemed to have something that was different than what I'd seen a lot of in my own family. There was a lot of pain and turmoil and different situations. We all have them. But I was always curious and inquisitive about other people that seemed to be what I thought was happy. And then throughout my life, I started studying what is it that caused people to be in this state of almost awe or wonder. And I started to learn that it was joy, because joy is eternal. Happiness is circumstantial. Joy is with us always, even in our sorrow. Even when things go bad, you can still have your joy, but your happiness fleets and it's taken away from you, and it's momentary, and it's different things. And anyone can call on happiness at any time. But for me, joy is a deep rooted, eternal feeling that resides in my soul. It's that what causes me to have a soul nudge every day. It's what I sort for when I'm in the world. I always try to find myself in a place of awe. So when you're in a state of joy and things happen, and believe me, this is a work in progress. I have not mastered this completely yet, but more than I would say 90% of the time, when I do experience adversity, I first start with gratefulness. I have a gratitude practice. And once you immerse yourself in what you're grateful for, then you can fill that vessel within you of joy, and your soul starts to vibrate and resonate differently. You look at people differently. You feel differently. You approach your life differently. I wake up in the morning, and the first thing I do when I recognize I'm breathing is I thank God for my breath. And how can I serve you today? How can I go out and be a difference? One of the things that I do is I speak to the fact that there are 3 human needs beyond love. Everyone needs to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved, and we love other people. But there's 3 basic needs in life. We want to be remembered, we want to be connected, and we want to be celebrated. And we do that every day by living jagged. And we'll talk about that.
That is beautiful. Thank you for, there is this absolutely, and I did talk about, breaking some myths today. A lot of people use this word fleetingly between joy and happiness. And I distinctly remember what Desmond Tutu as well said, that, happiness is like a flitting butterfly that goes from flower to flower, whereas joy is almost a deep practice, almost like a spiritual state of being. And for me, Vicki, I feel joy is almost like a shadow. It should follow us no matter where we go and what we do, like you rightfully said, because, end of the day, it's dependent also, don't you think, Vicki, on our thoughts, how we perceive things happening around us and how we process the challenges. They say problem is never a problem. It's your reaction to the problem that is your problem. So Vicki, now that joy is such a intrinsic part of your DNA, connect the dots for me. When you were growing up, was there any specific incidents? Was it a phase of life? Because you've taken this joyful ambassador role so seriously. Was there any triggers that spurred you onto this direction? Can you think of anything?
Yes. When I was 11 years old, I was in a missionary tent, and I heard a pastor speaking to joy and a belief in something bigger than yourself. And he was an artist that actually told stories. He spoke in parables from the Bible while he drew these beautiful pastel pictures on this easel. And I remember sitting there, and I was 11 years old, and I call them God bumps. I got these goosies up and down my arms, but I call them God bumps. And I was so moved, and I was being spoken to. And in that moment, I recognized that I had a calling, and that God was leading me to use my voice. He had given me the gift of hospitality. I didn't know what that was at that time. And then, through my life, I've always been a connector. I've always, been able to win others over, and I've always loved being in community and in fellowship with other people. So I knew that somehow, some way, I was going to be a healer. And for most of my life, I thought I was going to be a doctor, a medical doctor. And life happens. I graduated with my first degree with a Bachelor of Science in Biology, and I wound up finding my way into the world of genetics. And then I became a licensed cytogeneticist, and I've always been enamored with the DNA of everything. How does the DNA work? How does my DNA work? How does it replicate? And I use that as an analogy in everything that I teach, say, and do. Even though I've not specifically studied the DNA of joy, like I don't know if we could actually do that. Like, is there a gene, right? Is there a gene? I mean, it would be so interesting if there was a gene for joy, and if there's anyone out there who'd like to fund my PhD program, I'm happy to raise my hand.
This is a great shout out to our listeners, because just this morning I was listening to Jay Shetty, and he was talking to someone who completely says it's not even your thoughts. What you do is your brain decides, really.
Yes.
And he kind of does these x-rays, and he finds out that a damaged brain, that's how you're going to act. So that's quite interesting. I love that. I think there has to be a gene for it, because they always say that the DNA has a blueprint, and a lot of our traumas, if traumas can be carried, Vicki, let's look at this. If traumas and memory can be carried forward in DNA, so can happiness. I'm sure there's a gene. And before you know, I think you need to patent it, because someone out there is going to be selling pills, happiness pills. So, that just reminds me of one of my favorite mystic poets. I don't know if I know that, there's a lot of Indian mythology. It's part and parcel of your life, because you have Saraswati, goddess, behind there guiding you. But if you've heard Rumi, he's my absolute favorite mystic poet, and he says that you have heard him, right?
Yes.
Yes, and he says something beautiful. He says sorrow actually prepares you for joy. It actually lays the bed on which you can sleep peacefully, and it pulls out rotten roots so that new roots hidden have room to grow. And sorrow actually shakes from your heart so that far better things can take place.
How beautiful!
Isn't that amazing?
Beautiful. And if our audience only takes one thing away today,
yes,
that is it, because the generation beneath us is so circumstantially and experientially driven, and they're not sitting in a seat of sorrow. They don't want to feel sorrow, and they don't realize that it's those experiences in which we fail forward. When we're sorrowful for losing someone, when we're sorrowful for not getting a job, those life experiences are what build our bank of joy. We have joy jars within us, and you fill that jar so that when adversity strikes, you have something to cling to, something to hold on to. So many of the younger generation don't even have a spiritual practice. They're missing their prayer time, meditation, whatever you want to call it. There's no stillness. And I feel it myself. And in a world of heightened connectiveness, because of social media and all of the platforms, we are more disconnected than ever.
That's true.
Because we're not filling our own vessel. We're sitting aside and watching other people live out their life as influencers, as movie stars, as athletes. And what happens is we get into this state of comparison, which is the biggest thief of joy. We cannot have joy if we're not happy with what we have and we're not content. And I think, let me just say this out loud, I think that as parents, we may have served our children wrong by raising them to be happy. We should have raised them to be content.
What a beautiful shift. I love that. To be content, because then it's like everything's in place, and what is not, you work around it. and still.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. In
I
fact,
came to me one day when I was writing, and I just thought to myself, how do you find joy in each day if
yes.
each day is a battle to get something new? You know,
Mm,
so affected and impacted by marketing teams who tell us we won't be happy until we have that car.
yeah,
We won't be happy unless we wear that clothing
crazy.
line.
Mm.
And I know you can speak to that.
So Vicky, it's almost sounding like when we live joyfully, just another interpretation of what you just said, we can actually serve others by living happily, right?
Yes.
That's the other thing when you talk about your joy jars, which I love. I'm going to actually put some jars on my bedside tonight.
Yes.
uh, we can actually serve others by living happily and radiating happiness and joy to those around. Was
Yes.
that, Vicky, if I could just dive into, why you're doing what you're doing, was that
Yes.
also what renewed your purpose in life? That if I'm happy, I could radiate happiness and joy to others? Would that be one of the things?
I think so, but for more, it was, and it's so funny because if my husband John was here, he would tell you that sometimes I don't act very chief joy officer-ish and he demotes me. But I feel that in my life, I've always been an energetic person, very enthusiastic, very happy. I wake up like this. But then there are things throughout the day that suck the joy out of me. And I call people who do that emotional vampires.
Yes.
And then I call, there's just things that happen in life. And as you said earlier, life is really how we react to it, not so much what happens to us. And I just noticed a pattern in college that I was always striving and I was always burnt out and I was always pushing and trying to be noticed and recognized. And I wasn't sitting within my own worthiness. And I'll be honest with you, it's been a sojourn to here to 58 years of life where I still recognize every day that I can spark joy or I can snuff it out. I can be a light and draw people to me like a lighthouse, or I can light the world up or I can burn it down. Like my personality is very strong. I have to make sure that that I leave for other people. And the energy is there all the time. And I know it's a gift from God. And I want to make sure that I'm using it, but it rescues me. So when you ask, like, how is this within me? It rescues me from despair and disappointment. And I sit with myself so much that I'm thinking and questioning all the time. And the best advice that I can say is that when you have joy, it gets you out of your head and it gets you into your heart. And I always say that's why we have a neck, because the energy goes through your neck into your heart. And then you live your life with heart. So when you see a homeless person, you don't turn your eyes away. You see them.
Yes.
And you
Embrace
see
them.
Yes, we see it. I think it takes the veil. Joy takes the veil off of our eyes. And it allows other people to see our soul and we can see their soul. And that's connection. Because even though someone is homeless, doesn't mean that they don't want to be remembered. They're not remembered. And that's just one speck of dust in the world of things that we need to address. So as a chief joy officer at the company I work for, what I do is I hold the hearts and souls of my colleagues and I create better colleague engagement. And I do that in every organization and every corporation that I keynote, whether it's a women's group, whether it's a Bible study, whether it's an organization, a not-for-profit. When you go in and speak to people about living jagged, how do you wake up and how do you live your life every day with joy, abundance, grace, and gratitude? And grace, that might even be the biggest word right now, because if you don't have grace for yourself and you don't give grace to other people, grace is this spiritual elevation that takes you out of yourself. It's a divine influence and purpose in your life.
That is awesome, Vicky. I mean, I've even named my self-mastery programs the Circle of Joy because I so resonate 100% with everything that you said. And surveys, just surveys done. There was a senior contributor at Forbes who did a survey, and she questioned, I don't know how many thousand people, and the result was always the same. Beyond age, ethnicity, people want the same thing. They want to love, Vicki. They want to laugh. They want to be in joy. And yet, a lot of people are not aware that they can stay, like you said, rightfully in a sustained, joyful state. And
Yes.
in fact, there's something else, and I wonder if you resonate with this. I'm hearing with everything that's happening around the world, right? We have this catastrophic pandemic, and then now we've got this great resignation movement happening, and I am somehow hearing a new narrative. And I'm in India and you're in US, I'm sure it's the same. And what I hear is, I can't be happy, I can't be joyful because the world is crumbling around me and other people are devastated. So how can I be happy? So guilt. What's your take on that? This compassion fatigue that's setting in. How do we stay away from that guilt and still be happy, to show up happy, to help others? What do you suggest someone should do, Vicki?
Oh, that could be a whole other talk show.
I know that. So if
Yeah,
we could just
yes.
put it out there.
Summarize it. Okay,
Yeah.
so it starts in your own heart,
Mhm.
starts in your own home, and the only person that we can change is ourselves. So
Yeah.
it starts with you.
Yeah.
So every day, what is your gratitude practice? Are you living with self-integrity? This is the biggest shift that I've ever made in my entire life. When someone asks you, what are your values? And you write them down on a piece of paper, and then you look at all the decisions that you make as a compassionate, empathetic person, as a global minded person who understands that joy is universal. We talk about Jedi, we talk about justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. You will never have any of that if you don't belong with yourself first and you're not living with self integrity, which means you are living your values. So if your values are, I am a fit and healthy person, what decisions do you make every day to be a fit and healthy person? If you say that your life goal is to be a learner, what courses are you taking? What books are you reading? Who are you surrounding yourself with? We are made up of the 5 people closest to us and then the 100 that are around them. Who do you spend your time with? If you say that reading books is important to you, how much time do you spend watching television? So for me, it starts with self-integrity. So if you want to eliminate compassion fatigue, start with being grateful for yourself. And what do you do yourself to make sure that you are healthy, well, nourished, that your mind, body, soul, and spirit are rested, that you give yourself joy jaunts, that you take 20 minutes a day to revive, whether it's sitting Indian style in front of a tree with your eyes closed, listening to the wind blow through the leaves, whether you're looking at a butterfly land on a flower. Those are moments of awe. Those are serendipitous things that connect us universally. You see a waterfall, I see a waterfall. You look at the moon, I look at the moon. We're both looking at the moon, the same moon, but from a different perspective. Sunlight, closing your eyes and just letting it come on your face. How does that feel to bask in the warmth? Do you notice your senses? You don't have to be in a state of fatigue when you care for yourself first. And I mean, we all know the famous, airline commentary that when the plane is going down, you put your own oxygen mask on first before someone else's.
Even
It's
to a child.
overused.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it's overused, but I think it's really important to rescue ourselves first. And as women, as we spoke to earlier, we wear multiple hats. We are caregivers, we are moms, and we hold the strings that are woven in life. We create the carpet. And when we don't weave and the threads start to fray, there's nothing to sit upon. So we are the women who give birth. We are the women who sustain life. We are the ones who give. We
Yes.
give love and joy, and we're teaching our men how to do this alongside of us. We are inclusive. We do teach children how to belong. We do teach children how to love, but somehow the world breaks it. And I think it's really, really important that we have contentment ourselves,
Yes.
that we're not looking for the next train ride, that we're not looking for the next
Yep.
best car, best jewelry, best makeup, best clothing line. Because when you think about what the calling is, what the Great Commission is, and what each of us was born to do, if we're not doing that, we only get one movie right now. We're the only editor of it. We let other people edit our story. We need to be our story, and we need to be we need to find joy in each day. And however that is for you, whether you're baking,
Yes.
whether you're ice skating, whatever it is, just, you've been given wings. Don't keep them tucked against you. Open them up. And that means your heart's open.
Yes,
Be
absolutely.
open-hearted. Be open-hearted. Lose the disdain. Don't look at other people differently. Look at other people as a mirror, as a reflection of your soul, because you get back what you give out. And I think people forget, if you want to be loved, you have to love. You have to love. You can't, there's so many people in the world screaming right now, I'm not loved. Well,
Yeah,
how are you loving?
absolutely. Yes, rather than, drown yourself in guilt, I just think, this drowning of environmental sensitivity, which leads to compassion fatigue. I think it's so important, what you said, become the editor of your own story. That's huge for me as well. How do you become Vicki, the editor and the director of not a box office flop, but the one that you go back with, the globe in your hand? Literally, you have to. The one thing also that when you were speaking that stood out for me is curiosity, right? Just go out there and just be curious about life, and life teaches you. And how do you, your capacity to change your thoughts, your feeling, your behavior to negative and positive aspects, and then bring yourself to contentment. I absolutely love this. And I think, Vicki, you're so right. Guilt is not a part of you anymore. So just as a concise, you spoke about such brilliant things. I read somewhere, a professor of psychology in University of California, she said, if you constantly remind yourself to do the little things, like look at the bright side of life, like you are saying, Vicki, those habits eventually get ingrained. So what is it that we can, leave our audience with? What are the eeny meeny things that they can start with? What are the 2, 3 things that they can start with having the shift, Vicki, into the sustained joyful state? I think that's so important. Let's give them some startup points.
Sure. I would start with an abundance mindset. When you wake up in the morning, you take 2 seconds before you put your feet on the ground. When you recognize your first breath, you put your hand on your heart. You feel your heartbeat. You close your eyes and you say, thank you, God, for another day. Thank you for the heartbeat, for the blood that rushes through my veins. May I use my gifts for worthiness today. May I go out and make a difference. So the first thing you can do is just choose one thing every day you can do that makes a difference. And that is the gift of reciprocity. When you give, you receive.
Yes.
We all have enough. We don't think we do. A lot of us have scarcity mindsets, and they're afraid things are going to be taken from us because of the global noise.
Yeah.
We all have something. You can put sugar in a jar with a vanilla bean, and you can go give somebody a gift of vanilla sugar. It is the little things. You can write someone a thank you note. I think one of the best ways to have a gratitude practice is every day you give someone a card. And I carry these cards in my wallet.
Yes, you are the gratitude ambassador.
Yes. And they say, I'm
Yes.
grateful for you. And what you do is you keep these in your wallet. And when someone does something that you are grateful for, they pumped your gas, they carried your groceries, they picked up your recycling. You can write a note on the back and hand it to them and say, I'm grateful for you. In your own gratitude practice, you can have a gratitude journal. And it starts out very simply. I'm grateful for toothpaste. I'm grateful for deodorant. I'm grateful for,
Yes,
whatever. But then it starts to deepen.
Mm.
Then you're grateful for the breath that you breathe. Then you're grateful for the sound of the leaves rustling in the wind. Then you're grateful for picking up a stone. So those are 3 very simple practices. And the other one, the third, is what I talk to as the joy jaunt. So a joy jaunt is a moment in a day. It's non-negotiable. You must keep the appointment with yourself. This is very important as women. We take time to say, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes, and then someone needs us and we don't go for that walk.
Absolutely.
Yes. We must stay in our own joy jaunts. We must take at least 20 minutes a day. There is definitely 20 minutes in our day that's non-negotiable, that's for us. And even if it means reading 20 minutes of fiction, we need to allow our minds to rest and be creative. So joy jaunts, abundance mindset, and gratitude practice. Those are 3 easy places to start.
And beautiful, beautiful. Vicki, in a world that seems so challenged right now with hatred and anger, we're all sensing this. And all it takes is the small little things to just keep our feet, like you need that trunk, you need those roots to ground us right now so that, in these times of extreme darkness, let's be practical, we can shine light on the smallest things,
Yes.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Vicki. This
Thank
was a
you.
powerful conversation. I
Thank
love the jaunt. I think you wrote about this on LinkedIn just
I
today because,
did.
right?
I
You did.
did. And I invite everyone in the community,
Yes.
if you're on, I'm there every day to inspire. I'm not selling anything. I just show up and I write from my heart to give you a soul nudge. Every day I want to nudge your soul one moment further into your future self, which is a person who lives jagged, because life is living along the jagged edges. It's not smooth sailing. You're going to have hiccups. You're going to hit obstacles. We all do. But when you're around people who can lift you up,
Absolutely.
like you and me, with our open hands, and you know what, guys? It doesn't matter what color you are, what race you are, what faith you have. We all have so much more in common than we have that's not. And if we would just start celebrating our similarities and stop separating, because anytime you create exclusivity, you breed contempt. Every time you separate yourself from someone else by saying that you're something different or better, there's no belonging. And that's what we need to get back to, belonging. We are human. We are meant to gather, to have fellowship, to be in community. So I encourage each of you to get into a community in your own neighborhood. Start one if there isn't one. Gather women together, start a book club. Let's get back to basics where people share their hearts and souls, like the old quilting bee, like when our elders used to sew together and make bread together. We need to be together, not apart. And it doesn't matter. We are all wanting the same thing.
Absolutely. And Vicki, it is so tremendous the way each one of us can make this shift from being just a consumer to a contributor, and then contribute to this collective consciousness. And there's so much power in that. In India, we have something called satsangs, where people get together, and whether it's chanting or you're doing things together. I love the idea of doing things rather than, just, if you see, sometimes I go to a restaurant and I see a family of 4 where each person is on their phones. So I think if we can connect to the souls, if we can start having conversations again, I think that's also something that's missing. You talked about this morning practice where you get up and you think of, how you want your day to unfold, and you set this intention to the universe for yourself. And I think one thing that I've found that's very uplifting, and I just want to very quickly share this. I just find sometimes when you're feeling a little drained and down, because sometimes you're you're an empath and I'm an empath, and sometimes we allow unwittingly for environment around to affect us sometimes if you're not watching out, and if this happens to everyone. I think a very great practice that I find is if you just go when you're brushing your teeth, you just look in the mirror and smile, or even when you gregariously laugh, and that's an imitation of a laugh, but the mind doesn't know sometimes. It has the same response as when you actually laugh. And
Yes.
that is, I find, a great practice to do to lift yourself up. And soon you find that you start laughing at little ludicrousness of the whole exercise. And
Yes.
it becomes a little like a real fledged laughter. And
Yes.
that takes you into such a joyfulness space. And never worry about your spouse or your children saying, "Oh, there goes mom," or wacko again. I think it's so important to give permission to invest in your joyfulness. Vicki, I cannot even start to tell you, I am grateful for you. If I had a card right now, I would give it to you. Vicki, I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much for bringing so much value to all our audience, to help them on a path of abundance and purposefulness. Thank you so much. And if I can whisk you away to the more fun section, the rapid fire, these are, if you watch some of my talk shows, these are the authentic, spontaneous answers. So if you're ready and with your permission, should we go into the first one?
I'm ready.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the one thing that never fails to bring a smile on your lips.
Our daughter, Kelsey.
Like yes. If the universe was a blank canvas, what would you paint it with?
I would paint it with Monet's garden, full of flowers, all diverse, different colors.
Mhm.
It would be a garden. It would be a garden of flowers, hydrangea, everything.
Each signifying leading to a space of joy.
Yes.
You're right. If you have a lemon in hand and someone has just made you mad, what would you do with the lemon, Vicki? I'm touching a nerve here.
Oh, I would grab a glass of
I
water.
had to get you. I mean, you were coming out so positive and so joyful, which I know it genuinely is authentically your DNA. But what would you do with the lemon?
I would find a glass of water and squeeze it and drink it because water hydrates. I would use the lemon for the vitamin C and to fill my soul with something better than what they're trying. You know, that saying, you create lemonade out of lemons.
Yes.
For me, lemon oil is cleansing, and people can clean with lemon oil. So when you take that lemon and you put it in water, you change the chemical property.
Right,
And you
right.
change the aura of the other person, because you can say, "Wait one moment. Thank you so much for that. I'll get right back to you."
I was so confident that you're not going to squirt it in their eyes.
No, no.
There is no way. Yes.
No.
So tell us something no one in our audience knows about you. Just totally candid today, Vicki.
Okay, I'm a left-handed calligrapher and I'm self-taught. I got my first nib when I was 11 years old, and I write quotes and I do wedding invitations and stationery, and I make signs and I write out Bible verses and poems for people, and that's my little cottage industry. And I've been doing it my whole life, and I don't charge a lot of money because it's a passion project.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I am quite sure we're part of so many common tribes between you and I. I'm quite sure I haven't seen that out there, because I do quite a specific research on most of my audience. So that was it, Vicki. That's it. It's a
Thank
wrap.
you.
How does it feel to be here today?
It's a happy sigh.
Hmm.
It's a happy sigh. It's an exhale. It's a relief. It's a pleasure to know that there is universality. And if I could just get 5 minutes on a news show and just tell the world that this is not what you're hearing, like what you're hearing is the fringe, that the majority of people are like us, that we love, that we can love, that we
Mm.
want to be
Oh,
connected.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that we're in a sisterhood. We are a sisterhood, and women have always changed the world. And we will change the world again.
Yes. And joy, let's not forget, is our birthright. So let's claim it. So thank you, Vicki. Once again, between Vicki and I, we're leaving you with a seed that you need all our audience hopefully will nurture. And before we say bye, I always like to finish with a quote. And this today, Oprah Winfrey, my ultimate hero, came up for me. And she says, lots of people want to ride with you in the limo, but what you want is someone who will take the bus with you when you are down. And I think that's exactly what we need to be, those joyful containers, so that people want to be with us because we nourish their souls. So let's be the joyous person whose energy is so infectious, right, Vicki?
Yes.
So join me, Vicki, to say bye to our listeners all over the world, and let's wish them a journey of love, of light and joy. Love you all for being the unconditional love and support. So Vicki, let's say bye, and
Goodbye.
and if you all
Sending
have
love.
yes, bye-bye. And if you all haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, like and subscribe so that you could seek the wisdom of my beautiful speakers from around the world. Bye now, and we will catch you in the next episode. Thank you, Vicki, from my heart.